We don't deserve to pretend to know something. I've had many of my students say to me, how can I open up a healing practice if I still have wounds? Well, if every one of us waited until we're perfect before we started something, there wouldn't be a single one of us out in this world working for a living. There wouldn't be a single one of us out here as parents, a single one of us out here in relationship, because none of us are ever going to be perfect, whatever on earth that means. Because growing up in an Irish alcoholic Catholic home, what I was taught was perfect is going to be dramatically different than what perhaps a Southern Baptist was taught was perfect, or somebody from Iran was taught was perfect. What is perfection? It all depends on your value systems. We define that a million different ways. And perfection when we're 16 doesn't look like perfection when we're 30, which doesn't look like perfection when we're 60. So, who is ever going to reach perfection if it keeps changing what we think of it as? So giving all of that up, we no longer live in relationship to others' expectations. We live in relationship to how much more transparent can I become? How much more real can I become? How much more authentic can I become? And the more we begin to look at our own process of becoming more transparent, the more in integrity we become. And then the more we fall in love with who we are. And once we begin to fall in love with who we are, it becomes infinitely easier to fall in love with other people in the world. And once we love us, loving others becomes very easy, because it's very easy to, to ignore that you've been working on the same issue, whatever it may be, for the last 40 years. And you have a great deal of impatience with somebody else who's been working on an issue for 10 years and don't know what's wrong with them. And that justifies your anger and your impatience and your rage because they're so dumb they haven't conquered it yet. But when you recognize, I've been working on this for 35 years and haven't conquered it yet, maybe I could have some empathy and compassion for another soul who's working just as hard in their humanity on something else. And then you end up finding out people are much easier to love and be in relationship with when you have a sense of compassion and you begin the process of self-love. It changes everything. So what I'm going to do is very quickly go through a PowerPoint with you, and I mean that quickly. This is one I can use for a whole week-long program. I can use it for, Arlene can tell you, each one of these character structures we spent an entire weekend on, all day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, working with. And I'm going to do 5 of them in about a half an hour. So I will give you an overview of what these look like to support you in understanding that every one of us, no matter what our personality style, has immense gifts and strengths. But every one of us, that's our divinity that shows up. And in our humanity, there shows up another element, the way we do self-betrayal, the way we go into fear, we go into rage, whatever we do. And don't pick on people you know. Oh, now I can see my ex-wife, and now I can see my wife, now I can see. Let's take a look at yourself and stick with yourself and deal with other people later. But let me come on, and I will share my screen and allow you to see this. Let me see here. Is my screen being shared now?
No.
No.
No? Okay, let's go back to this. Oh God, where is it? Now I've lost you. You don't exist in my world.
We're here.
Thank God you have the confidence to know that.
Yeah, I have confidence in you, totally.
What a sense of humor. That is so funny. How the heck? You got to have a sense of humor. Life is a funny adventure, But here we go. Let me do this. I'm not going to be able to do it. So let's start with, I'll begin it and then I'll find it. Everything in life is about energy. It truly is about energy. It is about looking at how, when when you feel good about yourself, you feel full, you feel alive, you feel vibrant. And when you're doing that, you sit up taller and everything in you is present. You feel the energy flowing through you. You feel alive, you feel vibrant, you feel everything happening. And then when it's not, that's a completely different story. When you feel depressed, there's more of a concave chest. There is more of a sense of defeatism. There is a sense of being lost, being without who you really are. And when you go there, you disappear. You absolutely disappear. So taking a look at this, you can begin to see that even in this first picture, some people will look at this and say, there isn't a chance in Hades that I'm going to do this. There isn't a chance in Hades you're going to see me riding a wave. My son is an adrenaline junkie. He would jump into this in 30 seconds or less. He's jumped out of airplanes. He's jumped off cliffs and been hung by his ankles. I'd have a fear my whole foot was going to fall off. Everybody's different. But take a look if you see this here, that everything in life is about energy. Somebody is going to look at this picture and say, oh my God, I can't stand babies. They're always crying. Somebody else is going to look at this and say, oh my God, what an exquisite little creature. You know, everybody emotionally is going to respond differently to this picture. And in doing so, different feelings are going to show up. With that, different thoughts show up. And then body memory shows up. One of the things we need to acknowledge is cellular memory. And unfortunately, most people aren't taught about cellular memory. But every experience you have had from the moment of conception, every thought, every feeling, every experience is locked in every single cell of your body. And so therefore, when something happens, you don't feel it just in your head, you feel it in every cell of your body. What we know with amputees, many of us have given blood, donated blood over the years, which is a very small amount of who we are that goes out and gets filtered and enters into somebody else. But what we learned with transplants is that, a quick example I can give, a woman, there's a wonderful book out, Change of Heart. It's about a ballerina, a 50-year-old ballerina. She was born with a heart lung disorder, but did a wonderful life, 5-star resorts all the time, stayed at 5-star hotels, traveling the world as a ballerina. And eventually in her 50s, she needed to have a heart lung transplant. She was the first heart lung transplant in the country up in Boston at MIT. And when she went in and had her surgery and came out, she went through that standard recovery process and then started having dreams of running down a football field, started craving chicken McNuggets, started having all of these different experiences that she couldn't understand. And her friends told her she was having a traumatic experience from the surgeries. She started seeing a therapist who said, you don't need therapy. You need to find out where your heart and lung came from. She researched everybody within 24 hours who died up to 24 hours before her surgery and brought it down to an 18-year-old boy in Maine. And she went to this is before, you know, you've got information on that. She went and spoke to the parents of this boy that she read about in a newspaper article and discovered that he and 2 of his friends graduated from high school. They were working 2 to 3 part-time jobs to save money to go backpacking and riding bikes through Europe for a year after graduation from high school. And this boy was the football star. He was in a motorcycle accident on the way home from work, and he had a box of chicken McNuggets in his leather jacket. It was his favorite food. And we began to learn, Bernie Siegel, who's here in Connecticut, began to do research, and we learned that when there is transplant surgeries, because every experience of our life is in every cell, when you have a transplanted organ, you're getting a massive dosage of somebody else's cells, somebody else's memories, somebody else's life experiences in your body. And so there is a whole other impact that takes place. Everything is energy, and we give it off everywhere we go. Beginning with that basis that everything is energy and it's from the moment of conception, let's take a look at this. There's 5 personalities in thought leaders, 5 personality leadership styles I said I was going to discuss. The first is creative intellectual, and this is the thought leader. This develops at the point of in utero or at the point of birth. And these folks here, if you've ever seen some little ones, they run around on their tiptoes. These little toddlers, they run around on their tiptoes. They don't even plant their feet on the ground. And what you find out is that there is an existential fear in these souls. They are, when they are in their divinity, when they are in their higher selves, they are very sensitive and extremely perceptive. They can walk in a room and read the temperature of the room instantaneously. They don't need to develop that skill. It's instantaneous. They are very spiritual and often psychic, brilliant, innovative thinkers. I mean, this is Einstein. These are some of our great artists. I mean, some would say this about Beyonce, or about some great artists, some great dancers, that they are so artistic, so creative, or highly intellectual. And this is when they are in their highest selves. When they are not in their higher selves, then when they are in fear, there is a real belief that the world is a dangerous place. There are some people, you know, that no matter what you're doing, they're always thinking of the what if, what could go wrong, what could happen that would make the world extremely dangerous. This is truly a personality style. In the best sense, in the corporate world, these are the thought leaders. These are the ones who are catalysts. And every company needs this. These are the folks who come up with ideas of how to take your package and use it 14 different ways. They have an idea of what to do with your company that could expand it in ways you never would have imagined. They are an important part. And with these 5 that I'm talking about, 1 or 2 are going to be your intrinsic style, and you'll have very little of the other 3. So none of you are going to have every single thing in any one of these be applicable, but notice any one that may be much more who you are. When this character structure is in fear, there is a belief that I am safe if I'm invisible, and they tend to hide. There's a belief I don't belong here, and they make that happen. They enter a relationship where they believe they don't belong in their in-laws. The in-laws don't want them, they don't fit in, they don't belong. And no matter where they go, they feel that they don't belong, because that's an existential belief system they have, a spiritual belief system. And their fear is a result of that. Or they end up feeling trapped. Claustrophobia becomes a part of this. But as I said, in a higher sense, in the business world, these are the folks that have amazing, amazing ideas. They're very creative. I had a girlfriend when years ago, we were saying, you know, we ought to do something. It's getting to be winter and there's so many more homeless people. We need to get some blankets. Let's go around and find all of our friends who have extra blankets. She said, that's ridiculous. She called 2 different companies that made blankets and had truckloads of them sent in. They could donate them, tax write-off and so forth. Marilyn did all of this, but as soon as we got the blankets, she bolted. She was very creative, had ideas, a real catalyst, but felt trapped if she had to stay and look at how we execute and deliver these. That was beyond her scope of comfort. She left. She was a great catalyst, a great idea person, but not somebody who could implement. And unfortunately, in business, frequently you have people with great ideas and they don't implement, and they're considered one-horse ponies, and they're let go, when they're really, if you recognize their strengths, you utilize them as such. What happens with these folks here, when they become ill, what ends up happening for them is they develop bone disorders. Frequently, these are the personality styles that when you go in and take a shower, you notice this huge black and blue mark on your leg. Literally, nobody was home during the week, during the day. They're often ideas. They're wonderful idea people. And so they're in ideas, they're in concepts, or they're in their fears. And they may walk into a table or they walk into something. And when they take a shower at night, they have this huge black and blue. And all of a sudden, now that they see it, it hurts. When they've had it all day and didn't notice the pain. I was on the phone with one patient years ago, and she said to me at one point, she said, oh my God, there's a lot of blood on my floor. I said, I want you to take a look at your legs and your feet. Are you bleeding anywhere? And she said, oh my God, my foot is cut. I said, so hang up the phone, tend to your foot, and if you need, call an emergency room, get an ambulance to come and support you. Do what you need to do, oblivious to the pain in her body until she saw the blood. This happens to people. This personality style tends to develop skin disorders, sciatica. On emotionally, they can become hypochondriacs and panic disorders. ADHD is part of this personality construct. So notice these are the people, if you get to know those with ADHD, they're very intelligent, highly intelligent, great thought leaders, but filled with acute anxiety because they live in their fear rather in that I am, rather than in that higher self. The second type of personality is the empathic. They tend to be team leaders in business. They become the team leaders. They, in a social world, they're the one that organize all the events. They're the ones that get everybody coming together. They create communities. That professionally, they tend to become social workers. They create a lot of community. This is what feeds them. They are very interested in helping other people. They recognize other people's needs. They are very easy to trust because they are so unthreatening. The first personality style tends to be long and lean. This personality style tends to be more round in their body. They're very easy to trust because they're non-threatening. And as a team leader, they are wonderful. In a business sense, they recognize every individual's strengths and weaknesses, and they are able to create a team where each one fills in for the other's limitations. This is a fantastic individual. When they have it together, they create community, and they're a joy to be around because they see people, they are very empathic. They recognize what you need, and without an ounce, they are there to fill it for you. When they are not in that divine self, they are in another place that says, I can't get enough. There's a belief that their needs will never be met. Nobody is ever there for me. This is the kind of person you can see at a cocktail party. Remember, I was sitting at once and it almost was funny for me. I was sitting on a couch with somebody. There was a few of us talking. And one person get up and said, I'm going to go get drinks. Anybody want anything? And so a couple of us said, sure, go get us, whatever we wanted. Somebody else said, I'm going to get some food. Why don't I bring back a tray? Is there anything anybody wants? And while these two people are out, one getting us drinks and somebody else getting food, and she said, I don't know what it is, but nobody ever does anything for me. And I said, I think you have somebody getting you drinks at the moment and somebody else is getting you food. So tell me again how nobody ever does anything for you. Well, no, that's not really for me. That their inability to receive, they're not able to take in, they're not able to have their needs met. So they are always needy because they don't believe their needs will ever be met. Firstly, there's a sense of entitlement that can take place. And that sense of entitlement takes place because they end up in a situation where they get so little of what they truly need. Oftentimes, these folks they grew up in a home where all the material needs are met. But as an infant, there may be a bottle stuck in their mouth and resting on a pillow. So there's nobody there to nurture them while they're being fed. There's nobody there to support them while they're being fed. So although their physical needs are met emotionally and spiritually, they're not touched. And there's a belief that they can't do anything for themselves. So they tend to become, when they're not in their divinity, they tend to become very needy. And we all know people that when you're with them 10 minutes, they suck you dry. This is one of those folks that they are so needy, they just, no matter how much you do, it isn't enough. And if they've ever done anything for you, you will know about it for the rest of your life. Remember that time when, even though you've served them again and again and again. None of this is said with judgment. This is fact. We all have limitations and we all have strengths. When it comes to physical health, these people develop other issues. Addiction tends to be one of their problems, that they become, because there's not enough, addiction becomes an issue because they just can't seem to get enough. This is not working tonight. I've used this forever. There we go. Addictions are a big issue, whether that is drug addiction, alcohol addiction, sex addiction, workaholic. The addictions become a part of who they are because there is never enough. And because they tend to be passive about filling in their own needs, there is a very low immune system function. Again, everything is energetic. And so if you are a go-getter, if you are a mover, and things are always going, you're always moving, you're always making things happen, your system goes, and your immune system, your systems and your organs are always functioning at full capacity. If you're more placid and you simply sit, waiting for others to fill your needs, you don't have that energetic vibration that goes on to keep high immune function working. They tend to be diabetic. Diabetes is truly about not enough sweetness in life. What we know now is that type 2 diabetes is almost always reversible. It's one of the lifestyle diseases. And over 80% of the medical dollars in our country right now go into chronic disease. And chronic disease, over 80% of that is lifestyle byproduct. So changing our lifestyle can lower and can eliminate diabetes. I've worked with many people who no longer are diabetic. You change your life, you change your lifestyle. And if you take a look at this genetically, people say, well, I'm predisposed to this. If you have 2 adults with diabetes and they have 5 children, you'll discover that of the 5 children, maybe 2 or 3 will develop diabetes and the other 2 will not. If genetics was purely the example, all 5 children should have diabetes. And yet what you're going to find out is that if you visit the home of the 2 with diabetes, they decorate similar to mom and dad. They have the same belief systems as mom and dad, the same political affiliation as mom and dad. And they approach life in the same way as mom and dad. If you go to the home of the children who don't have diabetes, you're going to see a very different political system, very different faith system, very different lifestyle, a very different view of the world than those who have developed diabetes in alignment with mom and dad. And again, obesity, we know, is a lifestyle choice. I'm not saying a conscious choice, but it's a lifestyle choice. So when we look at obesity, yes, you may have Scottish or German or Polish heritage, and so you're going to have a bigger bone structure, but that has nothing to do with obesity. Obesity is a byproduct of lifestyle choice. Anorexia and bulimia, they're back into I can't get enough. Anorexics will not take in, all of this is a method of control. They feel powerless and out of control. Anorexics do not take food in because they believe they need to control something in their life, and the only thing they can control is the food in their world, and they don't take it in. Bulimics are on the other side of it. If you remember, I talked about entitlement versus needs never being met. Bulimics eat and eat and eat, but then feel so guilty about filling all of their needs, they expel it, whether through diarrhea or through vomiting. They expel it because they can't keep it in. They feel guilty having filled their needs. The third personality style is the nurturer and the supportive leader. There are some people in leadership who never ever want to be the CEO or the COO. They don't care if they have 1,000 people underneath them. They want to be the VP who has the CEO or the COO's back. They are fed emotionally and spiritually by building somebody up. And this is not a lack of drive for them. This is their personality. This is their leadership style. They feel very comfortable leading others behind them, but for them, their main purpose is to support the CEO. They are the one for speaker. And I can tell you, being a speaker for 30 years, they are the one who the speaker relies on completely to make sure the PowerPoint works, to make sure all the handouts are there, the books are available for sale at the back of the room. They make sure everything is functioning. They're the one that wave and let you know you've got 5 minutes left. They are the support that makes it work for you. And they are such a gift and a necessity. They are very reliable. They are hard workers. They are loyal, sometimes to a fault. They are immensely persevering. Something shows up, they'll stay up to 2 or 3 in the morning with you to get ready for a project that's due tomorrow morning. They will have your back, and they are capable of great love. They are a gift to the world. These people love unconditionally, and they are a true blessing. When they are not in their divinity, when they are in their wound, when they are in that humanity, there is a belief that the more I suffer, the more people will like me. Many, many years ago, my children were little and they did what children do. I have 2 children. I've been blessed. They do what children do. They keep all of their papers in their backpack and they never tell you about it. And then one morning they came out and said, Mommy, I need $500 to go to camp, each one of them. I needed $1,000. I didn't have $1,000 sitting around the house to give them. And so, and I had to head in the office. I had a full day packed with patients. So I asked my mom, I said, Mom, could you lend me $1,000, for the kids to go to this camp, and I will pay you back later this week. All right, the latest in 2 weeks when I see you again. Now, this was May. And my mother said to me, certainly, I'll give you $1,000. Dan and I don't need to take that vacation we were going to take in November. We can do without the vacation. It's not a problem. We didn't really need to get away anyway from all the stress in our lives. I said, Mom, I'm going to be paying you back either if tonight, if I can get to the bank on time, or within 2 weeks when I see you again, the money will be here. No, it's not a problem. Don't worry about it. We'll give up our vacation for you. Now, I knew darn well within 10 minutes, every brother and sister I had was going to be notified that because of me, my mother and her husband could not go on vacation in the fall. The more she suffered, the more of a victim she was, the more she was going to be appreciated. And we all would laugh and just give her a hard time and say, Mom, it really isn't quite that bad. But this was her personality style. And this, we all know people like this. The belief is the more I suffer, the more you'll realize I love you. And the more I love you, the more you will love me back. Because I'm not intrinsically lovable because of who I am. I'm only lovable because of what I do for others. So therefore, there's a compulsiveness to do for others because that's how they justify. And that's how they feel they are loved. I must never be angry or make others uncomfortable. Consequently, when they are angry, they are very passive aggressive. They will not show you their anger, but they will do it. I had a client once, it was almost funny. Sometimes it's hard not to laugh. She and her husband were under covers watching television, and he said, I'd love a cup of coffee. And rather than saying, great, while you're up, would you get me a cup of tea as well? She got out of bed enraged that he expected her to get out from under the covers on a winter night and go make him coffee while he laid there. So she went out, poured his coffee, and then did the dishes and cleaned the kitchen, and then brought him his coffee. Well, of course, by then it was cold and he was angry. And she was victimized because she got out of bed in the first place just to get him the coffee, and now he didn't appreciate it. It's this passive aggressive setup for somebody to fail. And there's a real belief of, I wish I could, but I can't, in the illusion of being powerless. I don't believe there is a one of us on this planet who is powerless. If you notice with women who live in physically abusive relationships, they keep going in one after another, until finally they decide they're not doing this anymore. When they decide they're taking their power back, their power goes back. Common illnesses for this type of personality is very much digestive and eating disorders. They tend to eat on the run. They don't sit down to relax and have a dinner. They feel guilty filling their own needs. And therefore they eat on the run, or they're the last one to sit down and the first one to get up and start cleaning after everybody else. Ulcers occur, their anxiety is because somebody's needs may not be met. And the guilt around not meeting somebody's needs is very difficult for them to handle. Liver problems. Liver holds all of our emotions. And there, the illusion of powerlessness is going to live in the liver. If you notice, those of us who were around back in the 60s, we lost Martin and John and Bobby. We got Nixon and we had the Vietnam War. And hepatitis C became a huge issue in the United States. We were victimized. The America we thought of as always number one, where we never had these kinds of problems, showed up. And hepatitis C became a huge problem. Breast cancer is a common problem for this personality construct. Whether you are male or female is irrelevant. Both get breast cancer. Right breast cancer is a belief that I don't have the right to nurture myself. In Judeo-Christian culture, it's really about giving to others. It's about serving others. And there is guilt in doing self-care. Left breast cancer is, I believe I have the right to nurture myself, but only after everybody else's needs are met. But this personality tends to train people to need them. I will be there for you 24/7. Call me at any time. I am available. They have no sense of personal boundaries, no sense that I will be here for you at any time. I'm available up until 6, 8, I don't know, pick a time until that point in time. And then I'll be available again next morning. They don't have a sense of boundaries because of the guilt. They don't want somebody else to feel abandoned or unloved. And so breast cancer and inability to care for yourself takes place. I once was working with a woman in a hospital, and she had a double mastectomy, and she had 4 children under 5 years of age. And she had a double mastectomy, and the doctor said she could go home in 2 weeks. And she said, I don't plan on going home. I'm going to die right here in this hospital. I never wanted those children. He wanted the kids. I had them because he wanted them, not me. And he has a job now where he travels constantly, and I'm alone, like a single mother raising these kids. I'm not going back to that house. I'm going to die before I leave here. And she did. She died in her hospital room. Chronic fatigue. People who develop chronic fatigue, this is it. Always giving. I worked with a young girl who had chronic fatigue, and she showed up with a boy, well, a young man, I should say, my age shows up. They were in their mid-20s. She walked in and with the boy into my office, and she was on a walker. And I said, what a handsome young guy you've got with you. She says, that's my ex-fiance. I said, if he's your ex-fiance, why is he with you? I would think he wouldn't come. She said, no. She said, I broke up with him because he wants children. I have chronic fatigue, and the doctor told me if I had children, it would kill me. And I want him to go find somebody else to love so he can have children. And I worked with her, and the story came out that her parents were Italian immigrants. She was the first one in the family ever to go to college. And her mother had said to her, when good girls go to college, they become school teachers. So the only profession available to her was to become a school teacher. And in doing so, she entered the classroom and realized she hated it. By December, she was so sick she could hardly move. When she went back the next semester, she was in school for 2 weeks and had to leave. And when I saw her, she'd been home for about a year, constantly getting progressively worse. And one of our sessions, I said, I just had a vision of you in a like an outside fenced in area teaching kids about sports. She said, I would love that. She goes, I'd love to be outside teaching kids sports. I said, do you have a Boys and Girls Club near you? She said, yes. I said, why don't you volunteer 1 or 2 mornings a week? She said, I don't know if I have the strength. I said, try it anyway. Well, she tried it, loved it, ended up going 2 full days a week volunteering till they asked her to work full time. She ended up working there full time and no longer needed her walker and no longer needed a cane. After about 6 months in this job, which she loved, her parents were just thrilled that their daughter was back. They didn't care what she did for a living. And she married this boy, and I saw her through her first pregnancy. And the last time I saw her was in her second pregnancy. She was very much alive, very happy, and they were very much in love. When you look at when somebody has chronic fatigue, what are they chronically fatigued with? What in their lifestyle do they no longer want to have anything to do with? It is truly a form of depression. Persistent fatigue, what burdens are they carrying on their shoulders so that they are weighted down with burden? Truly, they're weighted down with burden. And that's because they are carrying the world on their shoulders. They are the masochists who will carry the world on their shoulders. They take responsibility for everyone and everything. Anything happens in the world, and they should be able to make it better. Okay. The next personality construct here is the leader. These are the visionary leaders. The thought leader has a great idea. The visionary leader is the one who takes it out to the world. They are the one who represent, they're the face of your company. They're the ones who can sell anything to anybody. So a team may have come up with some ideas. The thought leader takes it, extrapolates on that idea, makes it a fantastic program. And then the visionary leader takes that vision, presents it to the world. They have a great deal of charisma. They are very powerful speakers. They have a personality that is very entertaining and charming. They're the ones that get people invested in the vision of the company. Now, for good, they can transform the world. If they come from ego and defense, they are going to do immense damage. But if they come from a place of unconditional love or a place of great vision and integrity and value, their power, their ability is enormous. They are, when they are in their healthy divine, when they are in the I am, they are amazing visionary leaders. And I believe all of us is called to be a leader. All of us is called to have a vision for who are we? What are we doing here on this planet? What is our life purpose? Because if we claim and we identify our life purpose, we are filled with passion about living that life purpose. And we feel the infinite power in order to actualize it. It's when we lose sight of our purpose that we lose sight of our passion. And then we lose sight of our power. And I spoke actually to TNG, to a group some members here are in the other night, and with Tommy, and Tommy had asked me to tell the big group what had I just shared in a small group we were in. And it was really about leaders I have worked with. They have a great vision. They start a company, they becomes mid-size. They may be making 10, 15 million a year in their organization. And what ends up happening is the vision is what led them until they reach a point where now success is what drives them. And once success drives them and not their vision, they end up getting lost in the pursuit of success. And because they're lost in the pursuit of success, they end up coming from a mindset of survival, not a mindset of thriving. And when the leader is surviving, the company survives. When the leader is thriving, the company thrives. So it's really important to come back to the visionary leader needs to hold on to his or her vision. Why did you form this company in the first place? Or why did you go to work with this company in the first place if you're in a major organization? Was there value and alignment? Did you just take it because it was a job and you needed money? That's okay if that's how you started, but did you become in alignment with the vision of the company? Did you become in alignment with the president of the company so that you're working for a vision that now becomes your vision as well as the company vision? Now you're being fed every day you go to work versus you're there because you need to make money. Any way you can get out of working is a good idea, which is how we end up with so many sick days, so many employees with lack of engagement. But when they are healthy, they are the good leaders. They are powerful, charismatic speakers, very generous and very entertaining and very cool under fire. Very, very cool under fire. That is a crisis that shows up. They take a deep breath. Not that they don't get anxious. They take a deep breath. They get grounded. They collect the I am, and then they deal with whatever the problem or the crisis is. When they are not in their higher self, they go into a place that says, I need to be right. These people are never wrong. When you point out something they did wrong, they will turn it around immediately and show you how you gave them wrong information. You didn't tell them exactly how it was supposed to be. Nothing worked for them when they showed up to do what needed to be done. It is never going to be their fault. If we gave up, and I say this as an aside, if we gave up the idea of right or wrong, everybody on this planet makes mistakes. Welcome to humanity. If we can figure out what happened rather than find out who is at fault, if we find out where the misunderstanding took place, we can correct it so it doesn't happen again. And now we're not dealing with good guys or bad guys or people who are right or people who are wrong. We're simply dealing with a problem that needs to be fixed. There is no problem that can't be fixed. I raise my kids with the belief that there's no such thing as a crisis. We have big problems and we have little problems, and problems can always be solved. So when my teenage daughter ran down the stairs in a panic because there was a major crisis, she couldn't find her brush. And I mentioned we have a whole bag of brushes in the linen closet upstairs. It didn't really matter because none of them were her brush. So we had a crisis that meant nobody could go to school. Everybody had to stay home and search for this brush. When you can change it around and say, I don't really think this is a crisis here, we've got a problem, and there's always a solution, you can learn that everything is about perspective. This particular personality wants all of the power, but they don't want any of the responsibility. So notice when they're in defense, they may be the leader, but they've got somebody else carrying all the weight. And they don't want that responsibility. They end up marrying this person before this, the masochist, the nurturer, because the nurturer finds somebody who wants power without responsibility. The nurturer feels very good because they have somebody they can take care of who doesn't want responsibility. So their unhealthiness works for them. Unfortunately, what frequently happens is that the nurturer grows a sense of self, no longer wants to be totally of service, wants to be in partnership, and the relationship has difficulties. This person is saying, don't get close to me unless you look up to me. I need to be admired. If we were to be equals in relationship, then you would see my humanity, you would see my limitations. And because I am only loved, because I am in absolute control and I am always right, if you see that I make mistakes and I'm not always right, you won't love me and it will be unsafe. Their belief is either you control or you get controlled. So they need to be in control, because if they're not, they will be controlled. That is how life works. One person's in control and one person gets controlled. That is a belief system. This is when they are in defense. And there is an illusion that they don't need anybody. So you are with me or you are against me. And if you're against me, get the heck out of here, because I don't need you. The illusion. Common illnesses that take place, benign essential tremor. Benign essential tremor can start off in your 20s, normally as just a little vibration in your arm, right or left arm. And eventually it can become progressively worse if they don't learn how to handle stress. The benign essential tremors are really stress that isn't being expressed in the body. And because they are demanding so much of themselves, that they are in control of everything, the stress is huge. And unfortunately, we have put this stress on so many of the men in our culture, that men are supposed to know everything, be in charge of everything, and be able to fix everything. And the stress is massive. So benign essential tremors are not that uncommon. Gallbladder disorders take place here. The gallbladder is rage, and rage is impotent anger. Some people only feel powerful when they are angry. Therefore, they present a problem, you solve it for them. 10 minutes later, they're angry about something else. Solve that problem. 10 minutes later, they're angry about a third thing, because the only way they feel powerful is being in anger. That anger gets expressed. Anger that is not expressed or can't find a solution becomes rage. Rage is impotent anger, and rage creates gallbladder disorders, whether that is gallstones, gallbladder cancer, or just a dysfunctional gallbladder that may need to be removed. But it is somebody who doesn't know how to express their anger. Consequently, rage doesn't mean they walk around looking enraged. Some people walk around with a smile. And yet, if you speak to them, they will tell you how damn happy they are. And it's like, okay, now we're going to go with that one. I'm walking out of this room now, because if you're in that much denial, at some point you're going to explode, and I'm not going to be here when you do. See you later. All right. Fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia, this is what I received NIH grant funding to research my doctoral dissertation work. And it was on the psychospiritual causality of physical disease and disorders, but my focus in my dissertation was on fibro. These are very controlling people. In lay language, they are the smother mother. If you go to point of onset of any of these diseases that I've mentioned here, any of these disorders, what was going on at the point of onset? Point of onset for fibromyalgia. This is generally a woman, it could be a man, but over 97% of those with fibro are females. If you go to point of onset, it is when a child went away to college, cross country, or got married and moved to another state. The mother could no longer protect her child. And the anxiety, the stress was so massive, it ended up in the bladder meridian. Meridian are like garden hoses of energy that run through our body. And when the doctors, initially I was getting patients referred to me from neurologists and rheumatologists. Eventually what they discovered is that there are 18 points of diagnosis for fibromyalgia, and 16 of them are on the bladder meridian and 2 are next to the bladder meridian. And this is fear around an inability to protect another in Eastern thought. All right. Water element is fear, bladder, kidney. Kidney disorders, fear around an inability to protect yourself. That usually happens when somebody loses a job or somebody is getting divorced or something significant has happened. Their kidney disorders develop. Bladder disorders develop when it's fear around an inability to protect somebody else. That is the masculine, that is the more powerful, that is the visionary leader. Because if you can imagine this type of personality that needs to be in control, they're the type that will have to pop and blow your house down. So they end up having big chests, broad shoulders. For women, they're busty women. For men, it's that Arnold Schwarzenegger look, the big chest and the big shoulders, that they hold all of their energy in the upper part of their body. And so heart attacks become a problem because energy is supposed to flow throughout your system, not be held here so you're ready for battle at all times. And some people are ready for battle at every moment. Sometimes they are overthinkers. Overthinking is strokes. When people would come into my office with migraine headaches, I would say to them, lay on my table. For about 6 years, I lost my malpractice insurance because I brought a massage table into my office to do energy healing work. And therapists aren't supposed to touch their patients. So I lost my malpractice for about 6 years until they changed their minds and decided to give it back to me. But when people would come in with migraines, I would go down, they take the shoes off. I would put my hands on their feet on the socks. And I would say, let's stop thinking and talking for a moment. Just feel my fingers on your toes. Don't think about it. Just feel my fingers on your toes. And when they stopped and simply felt my fingers on the toes, they'd say, oh my God, my headache is going away. Because if you're 5'5" and you believe you can think your way through life, you're going to bring all of that energy that's supposed to be flowing through your entire system and keep it in your head. And literally that sets you up for strokes and migraines, or whatever the case may be. When I had you bring your attention down to your toes, all that energy started flowing down and through your body again. And as it flowed through your body, your head got a break. All that pressure, all that tightness, all that tension, the energy flowed down. Prostate disorders, this dealing with the patient, two men who were let go at, it used to be Connecticut General here in Connecticut. It had never fired anybody. It combined with IGA out of Philadelphia, became Cigna. 2 men were let go. 1 man was let go and went home, told his wife he's ecstatic. He's hated his job for 10 years, but it allowed her to stay home and to raise the 2 boys. And he never in good conscience could have quit till he retired, but they let him go with a huge package, but they let him go. He said, we have to watch our lifestyle now, but it's going to be so much better. He got a job at Lowe's here in the town where he worked. Loved it. Lots of men his age were there working. They'd all been let go when they were there at a new Lowe's that had just opened up. His cholesterol went down, his blood pressure went down, his sex drive went up, and his relationship improved enormously. Similarly, a same man let go, went home and was enraged. Every 4-letter word you can imagine. They came in to see me for 1 or 2 sessions, each separately with their wives. And the first man didn't need anything. He thought he did, but he didn't. He was in great shape. This man came in. Those sons of bees let him go after all these years, which I think was immoral, to throw my personal opinion, to fire all these men in their late 50s so you don't have to pay them their pension, to me is an immoral act. But in any event, enraged. And what ended up happening is that he started drinking, staying at home, didn't even apply for jobs. He was convinced nobody would hire him at his age. His wife had to get a job, which made him feel even more castrated, because his belief, a man supports his family, and if you take his job away, you've castrated him. And now when his wife had to go to work, he was castrated again. He ended up developing prostate cancer. It's not what happens to us in our lives, it's how we process what happens to us in our lives. Now, the last structure here that I'll be dealing with is the achiever, the organizational leader. These are the folks that are overachievers. They are high achievers. They have got great energy. These are our Olympic people. These are our folks that, get all A's in school. These are the people that just are achievers. They are go-getters. They make things happen. They are also the folks in an organization. They become the architects. They become the accountants. They become the organizational leaders. They are in heaven if you stick them in a room all by themselves. And when you create a new product, they are ecstatic because they can create procedures and protocols. They love sitting by themselves, creating procedures and protocols. They love the order. They love the discipline. It feeds their soul. When you see people that do that well, and then you decide to put them over a huge department because they do it so well, they will fail. They are great over papers. They are great over procedures and protocols. They are great with numbers. That doesn't mean they're great with people. And then when they fail in working with people, they are judged harshly when in fact, their gifts were not recognized and they were placed in the wrong position. So it's recognizing leaders and their strengths and not getting set up, which unfortunately for many, they decide when they enter corporate world that this is the projectile that they are going to be on when it may have absolutely nothing to do with their leadership strengths. Find out what your leadership style is and then bring in others to compensate for what isn't your style of leadership. These folks tend to be very successful. They've got lots of high energy, but they keep it within themselves. The last person, the visionary leader, when he's in defense, wants to control everybody around him because it's the only way he feels safe. This particular leader only wants to control his own world. He could care less what other people are doing. He just wants his world to be in order, his world to be safe. So he is high energy. He's a fast worker. He gets things done and he just keeps on moving. He loves productivity. They are very well liked because they don't move against other people. They're just there. They are just doing their thing and doing it very well. They're very well liked and they are very well organized. It makes them happy. When they are in defense, when they are not in the I am, they believe they have to work to be okay. So they will be working till 10, 11 o'clock at night because if they're not working, they don't deserve to be here on the planet. They are only of value if they are working and being productive. Without being productive, they have no worth in and of themselves, which of course is simply a belief system, not a truth. There is always something else to do. The reality is there will always be something else to do, but that doesn't mean we need to do it. Good enough is never good enough. I have one client of mine, I say to him, listen, you're at MIT. Already you've made it. But you gotta be at MIT. No, you don't get it. I think I do get it. You may not be getting it. That we all have subjects that we excel in naturally and others we work really hard at. And if the B you got at something that doesn't come naturally, thank God you got a B and thank yourself because you worked your butt off to get it. There is a belief that I must be the best. Second place doesn't count. If I'm second place, I lost. It's the same as being last place. Common illnesses, disorders of the heart, lungs, and thymus. These folks hold themselves very rigid, very, very rigidly. They always have a perfect suit. No matter what suit size they get, the pants at the top fit, the skirt at the top fit. They have a perfect alignment in their bodies. And what happens is they hold themselves so tightly, if you're looking at them and they're breathing, you will never see their chest move. They hardly take in enough air to feed their body. Their chest hardly moves. They don't take up a lot of space when they are in fear. They play it safe. These people love to play it safe. Because they don't barely take any air in, because they hold themselves so rigidly, literally constipation is a problem. Because their system is hardly functioning. Organically and systemically, there is hardly any movement. Because they don't bring in a lot of air, the pulmonary disorders are there, circulation is there, again, because they hold themselves so rigidly that these end up becoming a problem for them. All right. look at when you are happy with who you are, and this is every one of us, we are the gift we give to the world. No matter what your profession, there's probably 1,000 other people out there doing it. What draws people to you isn't necessarily what you do, it's who you are. And when you look at who you are in the divinity, in that I am, that creates the gift to the world. The rest of it is detail. The rest of it is absolute detail. Are there any questions?
Dr. Dorothy, I have a question.
Go right ahead, David.
Thank you. So do all people fall into one of these buckets?
They fall into, normally it's one or two.
One or
Generally, you
two?
may have 40, 50% of one, maybe 20, 30% of another. And that other 20% is scattered amongst the other three. Sometimes, and it's an oddity, but sometimes I'll see one person that may be 80% of one of these. And then the rest is scattered. But normally there's one or two that are your strengths and the others are your weaknesses.
Thank you.
Okay. If you have any questions, David, I am more than willing to answer them. Truly, you have my email. You're going to be emailing me anyway. So ask them. I'm more than willing to answer them. I love this.
Gosh, I was just going to say, this was absolutely, to me, fascinating beyond comprehension. I took pages of notes. I started to take one or two and literally my hand hurts.
What I can tell you is I'm going to be doing a 6-week program on this so that we will spend 1 hour and a half, we'll spend 90 minutes on each one of these structures. So that with 90 minutes on each one of these structures, and it'll be very personal, I will answer questions on every one of these structures. This was an overview to support you in understanding this work. But if you're interested, more than welcome to attend the 6-week program and you'll fill you in and lots more. But if you have another question or two, just send it to me. I love this work. I'm more than willing to Zoom with you or answer an email. Arlene, you had a question, love.
Not so much a question, but just it was a fascinating sort of review of and how you've connected leadership styles to the character structures.
Yes.
And one thing I realized, both my father and my youngest brother have is very bad essential tremor. Well, my father's passed away at this point, but it's that connection was very interesting. My brother's is, you know, he struggles with that all the time.
Right. And notice how controlling your brother is. How much he needs to be in control and really has. And it's unfortunate because you see this, but then eventually you see this. And
yeah. And he has his own small business, small machine shop.
Listen.
But he's never really allowed it to expand over the years because he's, I think, too anxious about doing that.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting, the connection.
Yeah, the higher the anxiety around that need to control it, because if he could have relaxed, he could have brought in many more people to help out.
Yeah.
Work at the shop, and he could have had progressively less to do. And but again, that's another style of leadership. He may have needed to bring in, whether you called him a VP or just an assistant, but somebody who had that character structure, that leadership style that could work with the team and make it work. Well, he was above that person who did that kind of work that's not his strength. But yeah, so it's noticing we've all got immense gifts, but we don't have all the gifts. And that's okay. Welcome to humanity. You know, welcome to humanity is really to me, the biggest part of all this is welcome to humanity. None of us have it all. None of us. You know, life is a gift. Life is a gift. So, any other questions I can answer for you before we go? All right. Well, then,
Dr.
Yeah.
Dr. Martin. I was wondering, my grandson is 9 years old, and they just recently labeled him with leukemia. What are your thoughts on that?
childhood leukemia, you know, it's a cancer. that is really of the immune system.
Mhm.
I would suggest that this child is a compassionate soul that doesn't really know how old is he?
9. He was just 9.
Just 9. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say that this is a compassionate soul who really does not know how to do anger.
Uh-huh.
That,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, yeah. Because immune system disorders, autoimmune disorders, um, really are about a tendency to destroy ourselves rather than destroying somebody else.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
All
I
right.
mean, he'll cry. He does tantrums and crying,
Yeah.
I guess, instead of anger. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Again, but teaching, and this, unfortunately, in this culture, we don't teach people how to be angry.
Right.
I was a therapist for 20 something years, so I taught couples how to fight, how to argue, because most people don't know how to do anger. And anger, when anger is confronting a problem, it's not confronting a person. So when you continuously can confront a problem and not a person, nobody feels attacked.
Right.
Nobody feels wrong. We've got a problem and we've got to figure this out. What the heck are we going to do to solve this problem we have? Is dramatically different than you're a dumbass. You need to change what you're doing because that's going to make everything all better. Now, that person is either going to acquiesce completely and eventually close their heart until eventually the relationship's over. They may stay married for 70 years, but the relationship ended a long time ago. All right. Or the parent-child relationship. But when you can learn to be angry at a problem and solve it, you both learn how to problem solve as a team rather than one is usually right and the other is usually wrong. And because rage is impotent anger, they never get to rage. And rage is about destruction, which is why when people are in rage, people are frightened because rage is about destruction. People who are enraged destroy things. They throw things. They put holes in walls. They stomp around, and people feel like their life is in danger because it was somebody who's so filled with rage. Because rage is about destruction.
Mhm.
And so either I'm going to destroy you or I'm going to destroy me, which is why some people get so angry they go out in the car and they just speed. And
Right.
who gives a damn? They are so angry. They're just getting out there and they're speeding their car, knowing it's dangerous, but they don't care. They don't care if they die. They don't care if they kill somebody. They are so filled with rage. It's about destruction,
Right.
or it's about destroying something in the house. And what ends up happening is others end up simply destroying themselves through autoimmune disorders.
So, would you have any suggestions for his young parents?
What I would tell you is that this child certainly has the ability. No, I have seen leukemia go into remission and stay there for the rest of their lives.
Uh-huh.
All right. So that the parents, God bless their souls, they must be a nervous wreck. So
Right.
this is truly now about just unconditionally supporting and loving the parents. All right. That's really, I think, the most important thing you can do right now is
Okay.
unconditionally love and support their parents. And if they have any other children, supporting the other children so the parents can focus on what they need to focus on. But with the realization that leukemia can go into remission and stay there for life.
Okay.
Unfortunately, when we hear cancer, it doesn't matter how long it's been, we consider death. And
Right.
one has nothing to do with the other. One can have absolutely nothing to do with the other. This child may live a wonderfully long, healthy life with leukemia in remission. It's unfortunately going through this process, but because I don't practice religion, but I'm an extremely spiritual person. And I truly believe that their life happens for us, not to us.
Right.
Whatever this is about for this family, this child may have leukemia, but the family is going through it. So this may bring something that brings this couple so intimately together. It may bring the family intimately together in a way it never would have been without this disease. It may perform all kinds of miracles for this family and bring out strength in every member of that family they never knew they possessed. And bring them the ability to own that I am for every one of them. And if this child is the one, in the world of therapy, we always call the person who presents with the problem in a family as the IP, as the identified patient. And what we normally see is the IP is the strongest member in the family. They are
Wow.
strong enough to say our family needs something, and here I am, I'm acting out to bring help in to help my system. So whatever's going on with this little one, God bless him. I will certainly keep him in my prayers.
Thank you.
But I wonder what the gift to this family will be with all of this.
Yeah.
I say that I was a chaplain at Hartford Hospital for a long while. I'm a former Catholic nun, and I was a chaplain at Hartford Hospital for a long while. And so I truly believe that spirit is involved in all of this.
Mhm.
I'm praying like crazy for them. All right.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, they are connecting way more. I mean, they always have, but yeah, no, it's just
Yeah.
way more, I guess.
But
Yeah.
the ability to love and be connected is that much. Think of what the future can hold for this family. Amazing things can happen with this family coming to
Mhm.
the other side of this.
Yeah. I hope so.
Yeah.
I would
Me
trust
too.
so. Yeah.
Yeah. All right,
And
then. If there are more questions, I'm here. If not, we can end. Thank you so much. And as I said, I will have my assistant send out notice of the 5-week program, and you're welcome to do that. And Arlene, it will be a complete refresher. And my guess is there would be less than 12 people in it. So there'll be lots of personal questions and answers and information, and taking it all to the next level. Because no matter how much we know, we're never done learning.
That's for sure.
Amen to that, Doug.
Definitely for sure.
Is this going to be archived where, like, I would love for my wife to see this because I did so much out of it. I would love for her to see it, but is this going to be archived so we can
Yes,
view
it will be, Dennis. I can send it to you.
I
Okay.
would love to see it too. Amazing.
Oh, you're welcome. I will send it out to all of you then, all right?
Thank you.
okay, yeah.
Welcome.
What's the best way to contact you? Would it be through your email address?
My email, yep, is Dorothy@askdrdorothy.com.
So it's not the one you send out?
Yeah, it should be, well, my virtual assistant may be sending it out, but you can reach me directly at Dorothy, DOROTHY,
Mhm.
at AskDorothy.com. Dorothy@askdrdorothy.com.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly, and my phone number is 860-543-5629. That's 860-543-5629. And I will get this recording maybe in 15 to 20 minutes, and I will send it out. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you tremendously, Dr. Dorothy.
So welcome. Thanks for attending, guys. Bye-bye.
Good night, all.
Thank you, Daddy.
Bye, hon. Great to see you, Arlene.